I saw Sean Chandler's video on his favorite movie from every year that he has been alive. So I decided to do that as well. Some of these I've had to double up. You know, I was like, ooh, if it's between this movie or this movie, I can't choose. I'm just going to put them both on the list. But that only happens a couple of times. Most of these have one list. But earlier years, I'm like, okay, there weren't a whole lot of big blockbuster movies that year. But here are like the good ones. So 1997, my first year of existence. It's a toss-up between Men in Black and Anastasia. Men in Black is just a good, cheesy, corny sci-fi movie, and Anastasia is an animated Don Bluth movie with great songs that's on par with Disney. 1998, Mask of Zorro. This was actually the first ever movie that I ever saw in theaters. This is like the first movie that my parents took me to, and I was, not even a year old at the time. To hear them tell it, the opening scene, I was apparently cheering, so I had to put it on that list. But then the close second for that one is Prince of Egypt. Again, beautifully animated, amazing songs, just so good. Especially because, it's a DreamWorks movie. We didn't give DreamWorks a bad rap. But remember, Prince of Egypt was one of their earlier ones, and it's one of their best. 1999, The Matrix and Phantom Menace. And I can hear you all booing. Phantom Menace is even on this list. I was not 3 when I saw The Matrix. I actually saw that much, much later in life, but it came out in 1999, so that's why it's on the list. But yeah, The Matrix, classic sci-fi movie. Everybody loves it, including myself. I've only seen the first one because I'm staying far, 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 far away from the sequels, as everyone has told me to do, and I totally believe them because I don't want the first movie to be ruined. Great. It's got everything. It's got action. It's got philosophy. It's got sci-fi. It's, the classic movie. And then Phantom Menace, because it was the first DVD that we ever purchased, and it started my DVD collection. And then obviously Blu-ray hit, but at the time, we had DVD for a good 12-ish years. 2000, a Disney movie nobody talks about, and they should. Emperor's New Groove, most hilarious quotable movie that nobody ever remembers. That's why it's on this list. 2001, Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. This was the movie that made me a Harry Potter fan. It made me read the books. 2002, another tie between Spider-Man and Lilo and Stitch. Spider-Man, because it was the first superhero movie I ever watched, and it was on my mom's birthday, because that was opening day, and it was my first introduction to what a superhero was, and the battle of like good and evil. Just it was an amazing movie experience for me. And then Lilo and Stitch, because that was my favorite Disney movie for a good number of years, a good 6 or 7 years. 2003, X-Men 2, X-Men United. That opening scene with Nightcrawler is probably one of the best scenes of any Marvel or superhero movie. Nightcrawler is my favorite X-Men, and it's just it's a little dated, but it's still my favorite X-Men movie, and that's why it's on this list. 2004, Spider-Man 2. Probably even better than Spider-Man 1. This definitely has the most gravitas of the 3. I think it's the best of the trilogy. Even if a whole lot of stuff isn't really explained or makes a lot of sense, it's still the better sequel. 2005, Star Wars Revenge of the Sith, the first Star Wars movie I saw in theaters. It's on this list just because of that. And at the time, we thought it was going to be the end, and it convinced me to watch the original trilogy, and here we are today. 2006, Mission Impossible 3, J.J. Abrams' directorial debut into the Mission Impossible world, and this makes me wonder why they haven't brought him back to do the other ones. I like what Christopher McQuarrie has done with the last couple of Mission Impossible movies, but Mission Impossible 3 is one of the best of the franchise, and one of my personal favorites. 2007, Transformers. It's on this list because 2007 was a goodness gracious awful, awful year for movies. I'm going through this list going, all these movies on this list are like mediocre or just outright terrible. Transformers is the best one on here by default, because everything else was worse. Because that one's at least watchable for me. 2008, Star Wars The Clone Wars. This really started my obsession with Star Wars, because Revenge of the Sith kind of sparked me into like casual fan mode, but I wasn't like pursuing everything Star Wars. Clone Wars is the one that did that for me. Clone Wars is the one that sparked the obsession with Star Wars, with that TV show that they did after the movie came out. 2009, another tie between Star Trek and G.I. Joe. The only Star Trek movies I like are the J.J. Abrams ones, and they're awesome. And then G.I. Joe, because It means a lot to me and my dad because he loved G.I. Joe as a kid, and so that's the one thing that he and I share, even if the quality of the movie is debatable. G.I. Joe's still on there just because for personal reasons. It's good for that reason. 2010, another tie between How to Train Your Dragon and Toy Story 3. How to Train Your Dragon is amazing, and then Toy Story 3, I cried for a good while. Anyway, going back to 2007, Transformers, it's actually Meet the Robinsons as well for 2007. I'm just now remembering that movie came out that year. Yeah, Meet the Robinsons is also on that list for 2007, so that'd be Transformers and Meet the Robinsons. 2011, the first Marvel movie that made me cry, Captain America. I cried because I saw myself in the character. As you know from that video I posted back in, like, September, I think. You know, I have a lot of medical issues, and seeing that in Captain America really just touched me, and that's one of my favorite Marvel movies ever. 2012, The Avengers, for obvious reasons. Do I need to explain why Avengers is on this list? I'm going to anyway, because it is just an awesome team-up movie with a great villain. It's just a classic superhero film that really should not have worked with all the characters it had, but it did. 2013, Pacific Rim. Just a good, fun popcorn movie. I love watching robots fight each other and fight giant monsters. Just good, turn off your brain kind of movie that I love watching every once in a while. 2014, The Lego Movie. Favorite movie 2014 because it is one of the most clever, well-written, surprisingly heartfelt movies. Nobody expected a movie based off of Legos would be as good as it was, and it shows. So there's no excuse for things like the Emoji Movie to exist, because you can take a concept as stupid as Legos, which have no plot, and give it an amazing plot. Why this was not nominated for Best Animated Feature, we don't know, and we're still ticked. 2015, Force Awakens. This was the return to Star Wars. And obviously, you know, from my video, I have a little bit of a bias because I did get to meet J.J. Abrams, Harrison Ford, and John Boyega on the set. So I feel like I have to put it on this list anyway. But, I mean, even if I hadn't had that experience, it would still be on this list because it's just so good, so well made. Civil War, Captain America Civil War for 2016. Again, a lot of really good main characters, and it should not have worked with as many main characters as it does, and it did. And, you know, Spider-Man coming into the MCU, no, I say. And then 2017, Star Wars The Last Jedi. I know a lot of people are going to hate me for saying that, but it's one of my favorite Star Wars movies. The action sequences are so good. I was on the edge of my seat the entire time I was watching it. It was an amazing experience to go see it on opening night. And speaking of amazing experiences on opening night, 2018, the top movie, Infinity War. I have never heard as many people curse in surprise as they did at this movie. All the oh my goodness reactions to this movie were just so fun to experience with everybody. And of course, that ending, that cliffhanger ending. That's why 2018, the best movie of that year was Infinity War. So that is the rundown of my favorite movies from every year that I was born. What were yours? Leave your thoughts. And what movies from those years were your favorites?